Conversations with God. By Neil Donald Walsh. Chapter 1. Part 1. In the spring of 1992, it was around Easter as I recall, an extraordinary phenomenon occurred in my life. God began talking with you. Through me. Let me explain. I was very unhappy during that period, personally, professionally, and emotionally, and my life was feeling like a failure on all levels. As I'd been in the habit for years of writing my thoughts down in letters, which I usually never delivered, I picked up my trusty yellow legal pad and began pouring out my feelings. This time, rather than another letter to another person I imagined to be victimizing me, I thought I'd go straight to the source, straight to the greatest victimizer of them all. I decided to write a letter to God. It was a spiteful, passionate letter, full of confusions, contortions, and condemnations. And a pile of angry questions. Why wasn't my life working? What would it take to get it to work? Why could I not find happiness in relationships? Was the experience of adequate money going to elude me forever? Finally, and most emphatically, what had I done to deserve a life of such continuing struggle? To my surprise, as I scribbled out the last of my bitter, unanswerable questions and prepared to toss my pen aside, my hand remained poised over the paper, as if held there by some invisible force. Abruptly, the pen began moving on its own. I had no idea what I was about to write, but an idea seemed to be coming, so I decided to flow with it. Out came, "Do you really want an answer to all these questions, or are you just venting?" I blinked, and then my mind came up with a reply. I wrote that down, too. Both. I'm venting, sure. But if these questions have answers, I'd sure as hell like to hear them. You are, sure as hell, about a lot of things. But wouldn't it be nice to be, sure as heaven? And I wrote, what is that supposed to mean? Before I knew it, I had begun a conversation, and I was not writing so much as taking dictation. That dictation went on for 3 years, and at the time, I had no idea where it was going. The answers to the questions I was putting on paper never came to me until the question was completely written and I'd put my own thoughts away. Often the answers came faster than I could write, and I found myself scribbling to keep up. When I became confused, or lost the feeling that the words were coming from somewhere else, I put the pen down and walked away from the dialogue until I again felt inspired. Sorry, that's the only word which truly fits. To return to the yellow legal pad and start transcribing again. These conversations are still going on as I write this. And much of it is found on the pages which follow. Pages which contain an astounding dialogue which at first I disbelieved, then assumed to be of personal value, but which I now understand was meant for more than just me. It was meant for you and everyone else who has come to this material. For my questions are your questions. I want you to get into this dialogue as soon as you can, because what's really important here is not my story, but yours. It is your life story which brought you here. It is your personal experience to which this material has relevance. Otherwise, you would not be here, with it, right now. So let's enter the dialogue with a question I had been asking for a very long time. How does God talk, and to whom? When I asked this question, here's the answer I received. I talk to everyone. all the time. The question is not to whom do I talk, but who listens. Intrigued, I asked God to expand on this subject. Here's what God said. First, let's exchange the word talk with the word communicate. It's a much better word, a much fuller, more accurate one. When we try to speak to each other, me to you, you to me, we are immediately constricted by the unbelievable limitation of words. For this reason, I do not communicate by words alone. In fact, rarely do I do so. My most common form of communication is through feeling. Feeling is the language of the soul. If you want to know what's true for you about something, look to how you're feeling about it.